Around 4 in the morning, Julia Warhol arrived at the hospital, looking drawn and grief-stricken. Then returned to the Lexington Avenue townhouse, where she spent long hours praying for her youngest son, imploring God to spare his life and let him marry Viva.
You worked with Andy quite a lot. Did you know this girl?
Yes, I met her once or twice.
How would you describe her?
Mixed up.
How do you feel now?
Not very well.
4 hours after the shooting, Valerie Solanas surrendered herself to a traffic policeman near Times Square, handing over her guns and saying simply, "He had too much control over my life." For days, Warhol lingered on the borderline of life and death, passing in and out of consciousness, uncertain most of the time what was going on around him. He was in a deep delirium 2 days after the shooting, when the television in his room brought bewildering news of Robert Kennedy's assassination in the kitchen of a Los Angeles luxury hotel. It was also strange to me, he later recalled, this background of another shooting and a funeral. I couldn't distinguish between life and death yet anyway. And here was a person being buried on the television, right in front of me.
I wasn't sure if I was back. I felt dead. I kept thinking, I'm really dead. This is what it's like to be dead. You think you're alive, but you're dead. I just think I'm lying here in a hospital.
Finally, on July 28, 1968, after nearly 2 months in the hospital, Warhol returned home, but even then remained housebound for weeks. In an eerie replay of his childhood, he spent hours sitting in bed, flipping through magazines, watching television, and talking on the phone. His scarred and shattered body, he told friends, looked like a Dior dress. But it's not that bad, he assured them. The scars look pretty in a funny way. It's just that they're a reminder that I'm still sick, and I don't know if I'll ever be well again.
I came to see that the event in Andy's life, apart from his discovery of who he was as an artist, which was very powerful when he hit it, the event was Valerie Solanas' attempt to murder him. The narrative was the rise to success. At the peak of that success, the breaking into it of horror, of someone who was crazy enough to wish him dead. And then the rest of his life, in some ways, facing down what he met that day. He had been told that while on the surgical table, his life functions had stopped briefly, and then they had been revived. He believed that he had died, and he had a fantasy, a theory, a belief about himself, which was that, as it were, at that moment, God decided to give him a second chance. He had died, but he took it back. And there was a deal that he could keep going for a while longer, but the deal could be rescinded at any time. And I think that he spent the rest of his life in some ways dealing with that fact.
On September 4th, Warhol appeared for the first time again in public at a party celebrating the completion of Midnight Cowboy, the John Schlesinger film that included in its climactic scene many regulars of the factory. Warhol spoke that evening with unusual candor to a reporter from the Village Voice.
Before I was shot, I always believed I was watching TV instead of living life. Right when I was being shot, I knew I was watching television. Since I was shot, everything is such a dream to me. I don't know whether or not I'm really alive, whether I died. It's sad. Life is a dream. I wasn't afraid before. And having died once, I shouldn't feel fear. But I'm afraid. I don't understand why. I'm afraid of God alone, and I wasn't before.
After the shooting, Warhol remained as prolific as ever. In total, he produced 10,000 paintings, one for every day of his life.
I'm a commercial person.
Why?
Well, I've got a lot of mouths to feed. Gotta bring home the bacon.
By the 70s, he was making $2 million a year, purely from the sale of commissioned portraits.
I paint anybody. Anybody that asks me.
How do you choose to paint somebody? Just because they ask?
Yeah, that's the only way.
For $40,000, anyone could have a Warhol of their own, based on a quick Polaroid snap. In 1975, Warhol declared himself a business artist, dedicated to the art of making money. Pop might have lived on, but to its many critics, it had sold out. And the long shadow of Warhol's influence continued, most obviously in the work of the world's most expensive living artist, Jeff Koons, whose kitsch sculptures furthered Pop's use of bad taste to shock the art world.
People have seen behind his public face. Criticized for being a commercial self-promoter, he remains a private person, a combination of publicity shy, publicity whirlwind. He uses his shyness to superb effect, making connections as he goes.
Oh, isn't that great? Yeah, I love it. It's nice that you're visiting us here in Washington.
This is as big as Kissinger.
He gets to know everyone, despite the fact that he rarely talks and never commits himself.
Are you going to support Carter again this time?
Yes, yeah.
What, over Teddy Kennedy you're supporting?
I think it'd be great to do both.
Great to tell about both, you mean?
He always carries a camera and a tape recorder, and he listens. Quiet and inarticulate, and he is content to be an observer.
I look shy, and I am shy. And my voice is cracking, shy.
Andy has always had a fan mentality. He worships stars. Gets to know them. In many cases, arranges to paint their portraits.
I asked him if he took my photograph, would he then paint it? And you all saw him nod, yes.
With his distinctive, colorless face, Andy always stands out. But it's his philosophy that anyone can be famous for 15 minutes.
He's as famous as a rock and roll singer or as famous as a TV star. And he's the only artist ever in the history of America who's been able to do that. He's really elevated fame to a higher level. Fame is more famous now than it was before there was Andy. People can get more famous, and fame is more meaningful now. And although Andy, I'm sure, is sick of, hearing what he said, everyone's going to be famous for 15 minutes, you notice that Andy has been famous for 15 years.
Actually, it was 30 years ago when a skinny art student named Andy Warhol came to New York from Pittsburgh. He became a fashion illustrator, drawing shoes for Glamour, Vogue, and Harper's Bazaar. He was hardworking and dependable, and noticed for his originality and imagination.
Is this the way it's going to look?
Yeah, except the picture will
be bigger. Oh, great. Oh, great. So, did you sell any ads today? You did?
After 10 years of losing money, the magazine is finally turning a profit. Andy is publisher of Interview. Bob Colacello is the editor.
When you're talking about Australia, and then they say, I want to go there, it sounds like the really new California.
Oh, I added that.
You're putting words in my mouth, Bob?
To make you have something to say for a change.
Terrific.
Andy recently came out with his first book of photographs called Exposures.
Andy Warhol looks a scream, hang him on my wall. Andy Warhol, silver screen, can't tell them apart at all.
He's interested in absolutely everything. It's a wonderful kind of naivete. I mean, he just, watches things, which is, filling up his brain for his art.
Andy is the first real art celebrity since Picasso and Dali. For the second time in less than a decade, the Whitney Museum in New York has mounted a major exhibition of Warhol's portraits. Except for the giant Maos, these are paintings commissioned by rich and fashionable people. For Andy Warhol is now America's most sought-after portrait painter.
These are mostly portraits that I did when I traveled a lot, and so I sort of feel like I'm an old-fashioned American portrait painter. When I went to different cities for the magazine and for the movie and stuff, I never felt I knew what I was going to do there, and this way I took my Polaroid along, and then we got commissions to do pictures of people. So I'm just an old-fashioned artist.
To defend himself against his critics, he replied in his typical deadpan way.
Oh, I can't. They're right. Well, I try to make everybody look good. I think that's what life's all about. Maybe we can just can you put a little bit on your shoulders somehow, or yeah.
Yes, you know, I'm a very tan person.
Oh, I know. It just would make a better painting.
Farrah Fawcett, on a recent trip to New York, came to Andy's studio to have her portrait done.
I wanted to keep my hair kind of messy.
Oh, yeah, no, your hair is so beautiful. It is. No, it's really great.
First we were going to do it straight.
Oh, no, it looks just the way it is. It's great.
Farrah, somewhat nervous, told Andy that she'd studied his work as an art student and was eager to sit for him.
Let's try this camera. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Okay, that's great. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's great.
Warhol portraits begin with a series of Polaroids, snapshots which are blown up, printed on plastic sheets, and turned into silk screens. Using this method, Andy turns out as many as 25 commissioned portraits a year.
Maybe if a couple big smiles might, yeah, let's do the big smiles, and that's good. Okay, that's good.
After 40 pictures, Andy captured the look he was after. But his sessions often require as many as 300 shots.
Oh, really? Okay, well, we'll make them lighter then. Okay. So they all come out. I mean, there's no bad ones. Let's see what because we did 3/4 views, so let's see what the 3/4 views look like. This looks more like you this side, doesn't it? We'll blow them up and then see which one comes out the best.
And how do they blow up?
Well, we just, yeah. They blow up really, we can get them this big.
2 weeks later, the enlargements were back, and Andy began to paint, a process which, up until now, he has never shown or talked about.
We send it out to a stat place, and they just enlarge it. Then I trace it on the canvas and then paint on the canvas. It's too blue.
Andy has always worked with assistants, and usually paints 2 hours a day in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah, that's a good color. Yeah. Can we have a little brush? I'm always surprised that people like the pictures because the color's never really the right color of the eye or the makeup. I mean, did you ever see an artist working on the floor? This is too hard.
It's clear that Andy's style has changed dramatically. From his hand-painted shoes, to multiple soup cans, to a technique that combines mass production with painting by hand. Farrah's portrait marks his style of today.
Let's see what it looks like. It's actually pretty, isn't it? It really is pretty. That's not so bad. I'll have to look at it, think about it some more.
There are really 3 Andy Warhols. The commercial illustrator of the 50s, the social commentator of the 60s, and the society artist of the 70s. Still, he defies any one label. What is clear is that Andy Warhol, whose own looks never change, is his own best work of art.
Well, I just like to have the same breakfast, have the same lunch, walk to work, answer the same phone calls, and do the same paintings, do the same thing every day.